we're going to demonstrate how to take cuttings, and there are different types of cuttings. We will cover a lot of the theory in class, but today is the basics, is stage number 1. Basically what a cutting is the tip of any plant, because that's at the tips of the plant where a lot of that cambium and all of the unspecialized cells are found. Okay, so I would have collected these branches sort of early in the morning when it's nice and fresh and cool, and the plants are not suffering from the scorching sun or whatever. I would also be very careful that when I'm taking cuttings, I'm not destroying the plant. So I would take maybe a branch from one side, another one from another side, so as not to wreck the plant. But anyway, once you have a number of plants, the first thing that you need to do is prepare the cutting. So what are we looking for? We're looking for the tip. No point in me using anything beyond the tip, because it's probably going to fail. The idea is to develop roots, help it develop roots. So I'm going to separate some of the tips of the plants that I've collected. This is a Prunus lorocerrasus Otto lichen. Okay, you don't need to remember that. But I'm just taking several. Some of them are side shoots and some of them are actually tips, but in all cases it's the tip I need, okay, of the plant. So as I have them there, the first thing I need to do with the cutting is take the tip off. Remember the apical bud, right? The apical bud is there to help the plant grow up. What we want is this plant to be bushy and to continue to develop leaves sideways rather than up. Okay. The next thing I want to do is create a leg to insert it. So by removing the bottom leaves and leaving something like sufficient so that it will, no, turn it the other way around, yeah. So that they will continue to photosynthesize and, you know, do the job that leaves do. Now, on that length, I'm going to insert it in a tray like that. So you have to calculate the length that the cutting needs to be cut at so that it doesn't bounce off. So that would be too long, right? So if it's going to be inserted that much, that would be too long a cutting. And eventually you will become familiar with the correct length. But in my opinion, something like that would be just about right. Now that you've calculated the length, you can decide where to cut it. If you cut it right underneath the node, we call that a basal cutting, because it's at the base of the node. If you take the cutting in between two nodes, it's an internodal cutting. Now, guess what? A lot of the activity and the unspecialized cells happen to be there at the node. So it's like a really good idea to cut just at the base. Okay, that exposes a lot of cambium, a lot of unspecialized cells, and then they'll be ready for growing. I can see now by doing that, I've ended up with a very short stem, so I'm going to remove that leaf. Okay, and in a cutting like this that has large leaves, you can feel free to sever some of the leaves so that they're not taking too much effort on photosynthesis, transpiration, and respiration. So at this point, you're giving the plant a message. Look, don't worry too much about photosynthesis, respiration, and transpiration. Don't worry about the apical bud. We want you to worry about developing new roots. That's what this plant is thinking now. So you prepare a few of them like that. Sometimes when people are doing this in a nursery and they have a kind of 1,000 cuttings to do in one go, and they develop the ability to do all of that, say 5 of them in one go, remove the bottom leaves in one go, and then have them all sort of at the same time cut in one go, remove some of those leaves all in one go, and that's it. 5 more cuttings done.
How can I ever work in that nursery?
Exactly. But if you wanted to be delicate and do it carefully, when you're learning, you have to take things slowly until you develop a technique that allows you to do it fast, okay? So say you have all of those prepared. I would have placed them in a little container of water. In fact, I'm going to do that. Place them in a little container with water, because that will help them to not be stressed. The minute that they are dry, they will be stressed. Okay, so you leave them there so they stay nice and alive. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the proper combination of compost. It's going to be more or less half of it is going to be this potting compost, and half of it is going to be the same horticultural grit. When I say horticultural, I say it's actually special. It's not like sand. It doesn't have any salt or any lime in it, so it's lime free. It's special for this kind of thing. So half and half of compost and grit. Again, that helps for aeration. You don't want the future roots to become waterlogged. So 50-50. Now with that compost, I'm going to use this tray so that I can insert one cutting in each pocket. So what you do is you gently just fill each pocket without pressing it, because if you press it, number one, the cutting is not going to find its way in easily, but secondly, it will become too compacted. Now you've learned enough that plants don't like compaction. So I'm going to now remove the excess. So you see how I didn't actually put any pressure on that. Just let it fall as if it was a liquid. Right, so now I have the tray ready. And what I can do is put a rooting hormone at the base of the cuttings. It's like a white powder that will encourage the growth of roots. Not everybody uses rooting hormone, and not every cutting needs rooting hormone, so you would have to sort of follow a book that indicates whether that particular plant needs it or not. So but just to show you what it's like, what you would do is place some of that into a saucer. I don't have a saucer, so I'm going to put a little bit of that here. It looks like flour, literally. So what you do, take one cutting and shake the water off, and because the base is already wet, you put a little bit of that at the base of the cutting, not too much, and then using a pen or a pencil, just place a hole that is nice and easy because I didn't compact that compost. And then as you place the cutting in, not to the very base of the tray, but to somehow in between the halfway through, then with 2 fingers press and ensure that the cutting is secure. And that's another reason why you didn't want to put pressure on that compost initially, right? Give it a little tap and then test that it's actually secure by giving it a little flicker like that. Which thing I will do, by the way, when you're taking your cuttings, I'll go around and I'll annoy you doing that, yeah? So then you take another one, a bit of rooting hormone, hole in the center, and in it goes. Nice and firm, little tap, so on and so forth.
You know, Monica, when like Monty Don and those, when they're doing cuttings now, they put them always around the edge. I can never really understand why.
They use a pot rather than...
No, if like even for something like that.
Oh, really?
They would always put the cuttings around the edge. And I've noticed that with some of those gardening programs where I don't remember that years ago.
I'm not sure why they do that, but yeah, that's an interesting point. Maybe it's a left-hand drive and right-hand drive. I don't know, I'm not sure. In my opinion, once the roots develop, those roots want to have soil around them. So putting it in the edge seems to me that it's going to interrupt that. But I don't want to say anything against Monty Don. Yeah.
No, we can't. Lord Monty.
I want lacking, so I'm just going to put that one in there. So then you give it a little shake, sort of make sure that the soil is not touching the leaves, because if the soil touches the leaves, they will tend to rot. Okay, and now you can water using the watering can overhead. You don't need to use the capillarity. So basically just put it on the ground and get the watering can, start outside somewhere, and once it has a proper flow, give it a gentle water, just like that. More would be too much because then the stem will rot. And then what you would do is place one of those, when you put it in the propagator, you're going to place one of those covers. Obviously, I didn't organize this properly, but ideally that you get a tray with modules that fits onto this green tray, and then you will cover that with the plastic. Now it is important for you to know that when you calculate the height of the cutting, you should allow that plastic is not touching the leaves. So you have to make them short enough that the leaves are not being disturbed by the plastic itself. So then that's it. It will take about roughly 3 weeks, depending on the time of the year. When you begin to pull and it offers resistance, that means, wow, there's roots being formed there.
Could we not just do that in the tray?
That's great.